Tanjiro went to sell his coal, but Nezuko went with him to sell some of her mom bread to gain extra money. What if Tanjiro left early and left Nezuko to continue selling her mother's bread? What if Nezuko arrived late home to find her family killed but her brother a demon? And what if instead of letting Nezuko and her brother go, they were escort to the Ubuyashiki house to Heaven Trail right way? It was cold and frosty morning when Tanjiro was filling his basket with coal to sell by the village for money they needed. Tanjiro carefully placed the basket filled with coal on his back and headed towards his home to tell his family of his departure. Tanjiro 𝗵. Mom, I'm heading to village now. You need me to do anything before I leave? Tanjiro said. Yes dear, please take Nezuko with you. I made extra bread, so I told Nezuko to get a basket and put the extra bread I made and sell them. His mother answered. I saw Nezuko with a basket on her back running towards me with a huge smile on her face. I'm ready Oni-chan, let's go, she said excited. I don't blame her, she rarely left home and most of the time she's busy taking care and watching over her younger siblings. Even with his help, they were a lot to handle. Taking our departure, we wave our family goodbye as we travel the snowy path. Time skipped to arriving at the village and third person 𝗵. Nezuko didn't know what to do when she reached the village with her brother. So she just tagged along with her brother to the customers and whenever they buy coal, she would tell them that they were also selling bread. She wasn't as successful as her brother with selling bread. Soon it was afternoon and Tanjiro has successfully sold all his coal while his sister, Nezuko, only sold half. Nezuko 𝗵. Oni-chan has already sold all his coal, but I only have sold half of the bread I brought. I don't want Oni-chan to waste time on me. Oni-chan, I think you should head home before me, I said. What about you, Nezuko? I can't leave you here all by yourself, he replied. I'm old enough to take care of myself, Oni-chan, and mom must be having trouble with our younger siblings, I agreed. But Nezuko, Tanjiro said, but I cut him off. I can take care of myself, Oni-chan, don't worry about me. Now go on ahead. I began to push Oni-chan toward the path. He smiled and jogged off and stopped once to wave me goodbye before once again continue on his journey home. Time skipped to evening when Nezuko finally finished selling her bread, still Nezuko 𝗵. I was already evening when I sold mother's last bread. Heading towards the path leading away from the village toward home. I was tired but happy that I sold all the bread. I went from a walk to a steady job as the idea of surprising my mother with my late success and money I earned. I was already nighttime when I reached a house by the side of the road when I heard someone called for me. I stopped and turned my head towards the direction where the voice came. The owner of the voice was 𝗵. He was telling me that I should stay with him because of demon that feast on demon and human flesh only comes out at night. I heard Oni-chan said it a couple times and mom once, but I thought it was tale to scare us into behaving ourselves. I declined politely, but he kept going at it until I finally gave in. His house was small but cozy. He placed a futon on the floor next to a fire. He gave me using noodles for supper and sent me to sleep. I just hope big brother, mom and the siblings understand my situation and why I arrived super late. Closing my eyes, drifting off to Wonderland. I never thought anything cruel would happen to my beloved family. Next morning I woke up early to make up time and arrive home early and explain myself. Checking that I have everything need, I thank 𝗵 and wave him goodbye as I continue my journey home. I almost reach home and I can tell because of eyesight I could see better and farther than most people can. I made a bend when my eyes stopped something laying on ground beside my home. The body no, two bodies were on the ground lying what looks like blood. I ran towards the bodies hoping that what I was thinking wasn't true. But reality said otherwise. There lying on the ground was my older brother Tanjiro, with the youngest family member in his armies covered in blood. Inside the house was worse, mom and my two other siblings were dead. Their blood soaked the walls and floor. The scent of blood was strong. I check on my older brother Tanjiro and youngest because they might be alive unlike my poor family inside. The youngest was dead, but Tanjiro was lucky still alive. He was quite heavy and this gave me some troubles. Finally I got him on my back and headed towards the path to search for help for my wounded brother. The day was cloudy and it looked like it might rain, but other than that, the grass was tall litter with flowers and frosty air told me that autumn was around the corner. All of a sudden the weight on my back began to shift until I had serious problems trying to get myself balanced. I stumbled over a stone and we rolled the rest of the way down the path until we stopped in a busy area. Lifting myself from the ground, I looked for my older brother. I was sad, yes, but my mind was on trying to save my last living family. Tanjiro was nowhere to be seen, like he just disappeared into thin air. My eyes saved me, my eyes suddenly shift and caught movement from the bushes. Picking up a thick stick as a weapon, swing it front of chest. Sharp teeth sinked into the stick like it was nothing. The owner of those teeth were no other than my brother Tanjiro, but my brother was different from before. These eyes were blood red, his nails sharp, and his teeth like knives. He shook his head violently, trying to make me let go of the stick, sending his hair that reached his back in every direction as he continued shaking his head. Tanjiro, PLS, come back to me, don't let your demon side win. I shouted at him. His head slowed down but he didn't stop. I closed my eyes and began trying to get through to him again. PLS Tanjiro, I need you right now. I need my kind and caring older brother now, I shouted while tears began to stream down my faces. He completely stopped moving, and I opened my eyes to see my older brother, eyes full of tears, pain, guilt and sorrow. He let go of the stick and hugged me. I hugged him back, both of us crying. Thank the Lord for my eyes, cause once again I caught movement. Pushing Tanjiro out of his path, the sword nearly hit her brother. Tanjiro now was on guard and tried to scratch the stranger with the mismatch Haori. Third person POV. He dodged the attack, but that wasn't Tanjiro's plan. He's planned to get him far away from his sister. Now that Nezuko was a safe distance away, Tanjiro turned his attention to the man in mismatch Haori. The man in the mismatch Haori stared at the newly turned demon in front of him. He was puzzled on why it didn't continue attacking him or the girl. He pushes the thoughts away as he moved his blade towards the demon. Tanjiro hadn't made a move yet, but he stood his ground with a scared and worried Nezuko behind him. Suddenly Tanjiro lunged at the man with incredible speed and swung his sharp nails at him. The stranger was barely able to dodge the attack. The cuss himself for letting his guard down as he dodges Tanjiro quick attacks. See an opening, the stranger rammed himself against the demon. The sudden shift of balance threw Tanjiro off as he was sent flying. Landing on all four limbs, he growls and showed his sharp teeth. Nezuko sat there on the ground, watching the stranger fight her brother, the only family she had left. Picking up the stick she had earlier, she hurled it towards the stranger. The stranger caught the stick with easily. Tanjiro took the moment the stranger was distracted and lunged at him and successfully hit the stranger with his. Caught off guard in the power of the punch, the stranger was sent flying and crashed into a bush not so close. Nezuko see this ran and took her brother's hand and fled the scene. They avoid the path because the stranger would likely check the path. Running more farther from the path, Tanjiro pushed Nezuko from him as he jumps away from her. A woman with a butterfly Haori and a purple butterfly clip in her hair flew past us with incredible speed. Her sword almost cutting us, she lands not too far from us. The stranger from earlier appeared beside her, he looked hurt, but he looks annoyed and angry. Tanjiro moved in front of me and growled. The lady seems to act surprised, and the smile on her face seems somewhat fake and forced. My oh my. Look what we got here. A demon protecting a human. Never would have thought about that in all my life and never will. As she lunged towards us. Aiming her sword at Tanjiro, I pull him out of her way. Tanjiro fell and rolled over, got on his feet, and sprang after the butterfly lady who dare threaten his sister's life. Nezuko felt hands on her as the stranger grabbed her. She began wiggling, scratching and biting him until he decided to knock her out cold. Tanjiro was currently trying to hit this lady, but she was just too fast. The crow all of a sudden flew over and being shouting. Bring the demon with the earrings and the girl with ruddy red eyes, who is the sister of the demon at Squawk. The butterfly lady seems to be pissed about the hearing cause Tanjiro can feel anger off of her. The stranger knocked Tanjiro out cold because he was occupied with the butterfly lady. He fell to ground. The man stood over the demon, looking at him with anger for hitting him pretty hard. The butterfly lady was so pissed that she looks like she could say the cuss song backwards, forwards and in many different ways. The stranger had a slight smile on his face seeing the lady angry. Collecting the demon and his sister he left towards their new destination, the butterfly lady following quietly behind. Time skips to arriving at the destination. Note. It's afternoon and clouds begin to move and let the sun shine. Nezuko and Tanjiro still haven't wakened up, deciding where or not to let Nezuko sleep on Futen until she wakes up or on the ground next to meeting place. The demon was placed in a room with a door which led to room where the meeting would be held. The meeting room was huge. It had huge opening where anyone outside of the building can just step in. The roof which hangs over the huge opening blocks the sunlight from entering, creating a cool and shady place to stay. Nezuko was on a futon in the meeting room, sleeping unaware of her hands and legs tied up or the many eyes that watch and judge her. Nezuko moved lightly and groaned, which told the owners of those eyes that she was beginning to wake up. She tries to move her arm so she could rub her eyes but couldn't. Her hands were bound by rope and also her feet, struggling to try to get the ropes off. She didn't notice she was being watched. She rolled out of the futon, the sheets were rolled on and left on the ground. No, Nezuko bended her head, trying to see the ropes that tied her hand. Using her fingers, she began trying to unloose it. All this she didn't know she was being watched. Finally, a voice halts her attempt at freedom, a cheerful and loud voice shouted. You think you're smart enough to get free, think again. Turning her head, she stopped 9 people sitting on ground in the afternoon sun. Two she recognized from the previous day and rest were unknown. Then it hit her, where was her brother? With panic and fear in her eyes, she looked all about the room or any area where she could see if she can find her brother. You must be looking for your brother. Is that correct? A warm and gentle voice got her attention. Turn her head towards the door stood a medium-height man with black hair. His forehead too below his eyes were veiny and purple. His eyes were close. Yes, mister, I'm looking for my brother, have you seen him? He's the only family I have left, she said. Is that so? Well, your brother is a demon, did you know that? Nezuko lay there silent, thinking of what she would say and what would happen if she said it. Hey. Master Ubuyashiki is talking to you, hurry up and answer you brat. One of the 9 people or pillars have shouted. A man with many scars across his face, white hair sticking out like spikes. His eyes were a very dark brown, but overall, he looked insane. Nezuko not saying anything in response seems to piss him off more. You're mute or something. You can't be since you just spoke a while ago. Why don't we end this and just her and the demon? What demon? Nezuko asked as her heart sank. You talk now, said the white hair male shouted. Ubuyashiki ignore him as a whole and continue on like nothing happened. It seems you know that your brother is a demon. And he's the only alive family member, am I correct? He spoke in his ever soft and patient tone. Nezuko nodded. So you went against the law, attack a pillar and protect a demon, all because he is your family? Yes sir, Nezuko answered. You and your brother trails begin now. The bittersweet trails. Nezuko lay there as the white hair male stood up and walked into the room and headed to the door across the room. Nezuko eyes watching his every move. He opens the door and there lying on the floor was her brother. He was chained to the floor and had a bamboo tube tied around his mouth. He looked peaceful in his sleep. Removing him from the chains, he picked up Tanjiro and moved him into the previous room. Where once again he was chained and with a hard kick to his stomach. He begins to wake up from his slumber. Trying to move his hands to find them chained to the ground. He tried again but more wake, the chain didn't break. His eyes shift across the room and landed on his tied up sister. Trying to call out to her only to be muffled by the bamboo tube. Trying to reach his sister, who rolled over to him. The pillars though she was crazy to just simply approach a demon like that, but to their surprise, Tanjiro embraced his tied up sister with a hug she could not return thanks to the rope. Neither the less she enjoyed it. Ubuyashiki noticed Tanjiro's odd behavior instantly. Watching how he tried to reach out to his sister instead of trying to attack anything human in his area. Without knowing Tanjiro had already passed in Ubuyashiki's eyes, but he couldn't say the same for the onlooking pillars, especially the butterfly, wind and snake pillars. They hated demons with a passion. A burning passion, Tanjiro's actions surprised the pillars except the 3 who wanted him dead on the stop. This is unbelievable, a demon hugging a human. Yeah, I accept it to go berserk and eat her. It's nice for a demon. This is flamboyant. Whispers were shared about the demon in pillars, only 3 didn't join. Their anger only boiled more with each whisper they hear from their fellow pillars. They couldn't not believe what they were seeing and couldn't understand why, this only angered them more. SlayerNezuko, the wind pillar, wanted to prove everyone wrong about the demon, and an idea struck him. The demon isn't tempted by flesh but blood. Master Ubuyashiki, I won't fully trust this demon unless I do this. Allow me to do, he asked waiting for a response. With a nod, SlayerNezuko stood up and walking over to siblings who were still sharing a side hug. SlayerNezuko harshly pulled Nezuko away from Tanjiro, causing a very angry and annoyed Tanjiro. Setting Nezuko out in sun and returned to demon who was trying to break free of the chains. Pulling out his arm he slit it with his sword, causing a mere flesh wound, but blood dripping from his wound. His fellow pillars though he was crazy to do something as dangerous as this. He might be newly turned, but who knows, a starving demon can be very strong. Nezuko sat there in sun watching everything that took place in front of her eyes. Her brother's eyes were like a cat and drool came from his mouth and slid off the bamboo tube. Saying he was hungry was an understatement, more like starving. Sweat began to appear on his forehead as he struggles against his demon urges. SlayerNezuko was not happy with what was going on. At first he thought he had the demon only to realize it didn't advance towards him. He was hungry, that was quite obvious, so that looked like a perfect plan. He guessed wrong, Tanjiro just stood there, looking hungrily at him but not moving. Tanjiro turned his head away from SlayerNezuko and looked towards his sister. His eyes softening when he spotted her. He was hit with memories of his family before they were slaughtered. He was snapped from the sudden trip down memory lane by the SlayerNezuko shouting at him. Pay attention to me, you filth. Tanjiro turned his head back towards him, his eyes full anger. It was like the hunger just vanished. Tanjiro stared at him before turning his away like a stubborn child who won't eat his vegetables. This shook everyone except Ubuyashiki and Nezuko, who had smiles on their faces. SlayerNezuko was in shock, he couldn't believe what was happening. A demon refused blood. This must be a jokersome game, this can't be happening. Two others pillars weren't far from Tsunemi train of thought. They too were shocked but anger overpowered. Congratulations Nezuko and Tanjiro Kamado, you two has successfully passed the trail. You are free to go, and no demon slayers or pillars here will hurt you, but I suggest you stay with me for a few days to rest and recover. Tsunemi do the honors of setting them free. Ubuyashiki said. The very unhappy Tsunemi went over to free Nezuko first. After cutting through the ropes, he carefully enchained the demon. He left the demon standing there, rubbing his wrist and looking around. He sat beside the mist pillar, still sour over what was happening. Nezuko ran hug her brother, they both shared a proper and happy hug. The girl with white hair to the shoulder came and ushered them to follow her into the house. Tanjiro hesitated until his sister Nezuko took his hand and they both follow after the girl. Leaving the pillars to openly speak about them out of hearing range. Before the pillars could speak, Ubuyashiki ended the meeting. I shall be checking up on my guest and I accept nothing but the best treatment from you to the Kamado siblings. With that said you are all dismissed, enjoy the rest of the afternoon. He turned and left them to chat among themselves. Silence filled the air as the pillars tried to comprehend what just happened. Conflicting feelings was up and about, but none questioned their master order. The first to left was the mist pillar followed by flame, sound, stone, water, love. The butterfly pillar with a curse left to think about it more at the estate. The snake pillar left and the wind pillar finally left. All their minds trying to wrap around today's events. The sweet aftermath. Nezuko Pav. The girl led me and Tanjiro to a room quite far from the room me and Tanjiro were being held. The room was brightly lit by the afternoon sun, making Tanjiro hid behind the wall. The room was quite boring but formal. A futon was placed against the left side of the room, while a drawer was placed against the right wall. A medium window hung in the middle wall letting the sunlight in. Here is your room Nezuko Kamado, your brother room is urgently under work, for we don't often have demon guest. For the meanwhile he will accompany me in the family room. Follow this hall down and make right turn and continue and you'll reach there. Also feel free to explore when you're done with your room. The girl said. But that the girl moment for Tanjiro to follow her. With a quick look and wave from Tanjiro, he followed her. I looked around the room and I realized something, I didn't have any clothes besides the one and I'm wearing, and neither does Tanjiro. Feeling tired I threw myself on the futon. Getting comfortable, I drift off into a deep sleep. Tanjiro Pav. I was still not used to the bamboo tube around my mouth, but still keep it on for my sister's sake. Following the girl to a huge room where a large round table and 6 soft cushions sat around the table. Sitting on a pink one I looked around the room, the windows were covered by towels with just a little sunlight passing through. There were multiple doors leading to different parts of the house. The girl sat beside Tanjiro and looked at him. Your name is Tanjiro Kamado, am I correct? I turned to her and nodded. So you're a demon as well. I nodded again. You know you're quite different from the rest of demons I heard about. I look at her with confusion on my face. What I heard about demons is that they're mean, ugly and blood-hungry beasts who eat human at night and sleep during the day. You're different, you're nice, good-looking and you're not hungry, and you haven't eaten a human yet. I was quite surprised by hearing this but also happy. I hugged this girl, even though she is a total stranger, she was very nice. Pulling away from the hug, the girl looked shocked and confused. I began to get worried if I did something wrong. What was that? What did you just do? Since I couldn't talk, I try to shape the word hug with my fingers so she can understand. She seemed to understand and smile. So that what it is? It's nice, can I have another one? The thing you called hug. She said looking up at me. I gladly hugged her again and this time she hugged back. I was happy that I made a friend. I pulled away, but she kept hugging me. I realized that she suddenly fell asleep during the hug. Carefully not to wake her up, I moved to face the table and place her head on my lap. Feeling tired myself, I place my arm on the table using it as pillow to rest my head as I fall asleep. Third person Pav. During the wholesome moment between Tanjiro and Ubuyashiki daughter. Ubuyashiki was watching all time, a smile was on his face and still was as he sat across from Tanjiro. He really was different as he watched the two sleep peacefully. Almost looked like they were having a brother and sister moment. His wife entered and looked at the scene before turning around and began to work on supper. Ubuyashiki sat, relax and enjoy the comfortable silence. Time skipped to before supper was served, note. It's evening. Tanjiro and Ubuyashiki daughter still hasn't woken from their sleep or to say better nap. His other daughter arrived shortly after the two fell asleep. She too enjoyed the scene because her sister rarely behaves like this way and wanted to enjoy while it lasts. Nezuko has just woken up a while ago and is following the directions from the girl to reach the meeting room. She arrived to a surprise sight of her brother and the girl from earlier sleeping. She didn't accept for Tanjiro to open up to people they just meet, but she was wrong. Sitting beside her sleeping brother, only one cushion was left, which I guess was for his wife. She soon arrived with 2 bowls of udon noodles and sets it on set table before getting the rest. Nezuko decided to shake Tanjiro awake, and at the time the girl in his lap. The girl wake up at the first nudge and quickly apologize for what she had done as she looked embarrassed. Tanjiro on the other hand didn't wake up so easily. After a couple of nudges and a muffled groan, Tanjiro was awake and looked around, noticing that the sun was setting and food was on the table. Ubuyashiki decided now was the time to clear things up for the Kamado siblings, or the ground rules. Nezuko and Tanjiro Kamado, you will be staying with us until you two can take care of yourself. Your clothes will be given to you by tomorrow morning. Nezuko, and knowing you want your brother human again, I have arranged for you to train under a past water pillar after tomorrow. During this time your brother will stay with me and my family and this house. Nezuko was speechless. She didn't expect an offer from this, and not from a person of such high power. Tears fell from her face as she said, "Thank you so much for all of this. Thank you saving my brother's life and taking care of us. We are forever in debt. Stop crying and eat your food before it gets cold," Ubuyashiki said with a smile. Nezuko through tears of happiness ate her udon noodles with her new family. A surprising fight. Tanjiro Pav, note the sun has set and now it's night time. I smell something off, something that smell like human flesh and blood. The sounds of cries and begs of mercy, smell of death. It was in a huge amount. I began to growl, scaring and frightening my new family. I got up, ran out of the room and towards the place where me and Nezuko were held. I smell some other scent: fear, excitement, anger, annoyance, confusion and many more. Hearing Nezuko footsteps told she was following me. The man who led us here was probably following as well. Reaching, I noticed the people from earlier were fighting the things that smell like death and human flesh. Nezuko followed by Ubuyashiki stopped beside me to look at the scene. Turning to my sister, who had a look of fear in her eyes. All of the she dashed away from us and ran around the house. I left Ubuyashiki there with the people and dash after my sister. Nezuko Pav. My eyes caught sight of someone running away from a demon. Running towards, I picked up axe that just so to happen laying around on the ground and swung it at the demon's head. It sliced through its skin but didn't went far. The demon screech in pain as I pull out the axe and distance myself. The person from earlier was nowhere to be seen. So much for help as I position myself into a defense. Third person Pav. The demon's skin began to heal as it turned a target towards Nezuko. Lunging at Nezuko, she dodged the attack and swung the axe at its leg, causing a long cut and a painful screech from the demon. The demon couldn't land properly with its injured leg and crashed into the ground. Nezuko now seeing her chance charge and swung an axe at its head. If only she knew that axe were meant to cut trees and not demon heads. With it the axe steel head shattered on impact and only the wooden handle was left. Nezuko was shocked at when the axe steel head shattered, and this gave the demon enough time to heal and attack Nezuko. Sending Nezuko to the ground. Using the wooden handle of the axe, the demon tried to bite her. She used the wooden handle to keep the demon from biting her. The demon trying to bite through the handle didn't notice a figure running toward it. All of a sudden its head was off, its body was sent flying like a football. Tanjiro, who noticed the demon attacking his sister, ran over and kicked its head clean off and was sent flying. Nezuko was surprised and frightened. She didn't expect her brother would do such a thing, and how was Tanjiro strong enough to kick its head like a football? Pushing the body off her, still shaken by Tanjiro actions. Tanjiro looking at his sister with worry on his face. "It's fine Tanjiro, let's see if Ubuyashiki and others are okay," Nezuko said. With a nod from Tanjiro, they ran over to see if Ubuyashiki was okay. Turning the corner, the people from earlier has taken out most of the demons, some still was left either running away or fighting. Ubuyashiki was fine, he hasn't left the meeting room and was now with his family. "Look out Ubuyashiki-sama," a voice cried. The demon who was on roof took its chances at the family. Too bad when the demon was human he was bad at math and still is. If he was good at it, he wouldn't have been punched by Tanjiro in the gut and sent flying doing flips and whatnot. Tanjiro had launched himself towards the demon who made the move on his new family. Landing a powerful punch to his gut and sent him flying. The pillars were surprised, they didn't expect a demon to fight another demon. All the demon that has the guts to invade here were killed, except for the one Tanjiro punched which was getting up. Tanjiro ran towards and with a series of blows as he continued to attack the demon. The poor demon was been beating up just because his friend said it was going to easy and fun. Tanjiro noticed a person with yellow hair and light red on its tips behind me and jumped away from him and the demon. The flame pillar now with Tanjiro out of danger, he used his second form of fire breathing and sliced the demon head off like it was cake. The demon body began to wither away. He looked at Tanjiro who looked back at him with amazement in his eyes. Tanjiro though it was cool how the male could do it. The flame pillar walked over to Tanjiro and petted his head. To his amusement, the demon boy was now more than ever happy. Tanjiro, taking the flame pillar hand, led him towards the meeting room where the rest were. The flame pillar gladly followed him. Letting go of the flame pillar hand, Tanjiro ran over to Ubuyashiki and hugged him. Ubuyashiki just smiled and patted him on his head. Tanjiro saw Nezuko and ran over to her and hugged her. Nezuko returning the hug. All the pillars were sitter, waiting for Ubuyashiki to start. Nezuko and Tanjiro Kamado, you have done an excellent job at defending this place. You are ordered to go to bed right away. Tanjiro, the girl with the yellow string in her hair, the one that slept in your lap, is waiting to show you her room. Have a good night and I'll see you in the morning. Ubuyashiki said. Nezuko nodded and left to go to her room. Tanjiro followed, but not without hugging the flame pillar before dashing off to find the girl earlier. Leaving Ubuyashiki and the pillars alone to discuss what has happened and why it happened. Tanjiro found the girl in the hallway. Tanjiro came to stop and greeted her with a surprise hug. She smiled as she hugged back. Letting go of the hug, she took his hand and led him to his room. Leaving him to explore his room and go to sleep, she left and went to her own. Happy to have two new siblings, even if one of them is a demon. A smooth transition to demon slaying. It's been 2 months since Tanjiro and Nezuko moved in with Ubuyashiki and his family, and everything was going great. Nezuko training, Tanjiro playing with his new siblings while helping his mom out with chores which have nothing to do with Big Bright Star. Ubuyashiki has called the pillars for a meeting to discuss a way to make demon slaying a bit easier. Tanjiro was sleeping, his head on Ubuyashiki's lap as he slept. Tanjiro hasn't eaten anything since turning demon. So, to regain energy he slept, and he slept very often. But never for long cause he wanted to be with his new family. And he wanted to hear about Nezuko and her training. Footsteps could be heard as the pillars approached the meeting room. Sitting themselves outside in sun, the scene in front of them wasn't shocking. For the time Tanjiro and Nezuko move in, scene like this happens often. During this time Tanjiro created a bond with Rengoku, the flame pillar, and Mitsuri, the love pillar. If any of them would visit or report back to Ubuyashiki and Tanjiro was there, he would run over and give them a hug. And once Tanjiro accidentally unlocked his shrinking ability when the Mitsuri visited. Tanjiro was playing with Mitsuri when a sword came flying towards him. Mitsuri was about to pull her sword out to deflect the sword, but Tanjiro shrinked into a child and the sword missed. Mitsuri was amazed and quickly told the others about the attack and the Tanjiro shrinking. So since then, Mitsuri and Rengoku kept an eye on Tanjiro to keep him safe. His next abilities was super strength, even though he didn't eat human. Tanjiro was far stronger than any demon he encounters. Once Uzui kicked a ball away and Tanjiro did the same, only the ball was sent flying into the heavens and was never seen again. Uzui was impressed with this and told Tanjiro that he was flamboyant. He was also ungodly fast, he would run around the compound and would see how fast he could go. Next was his super smell, once he smells you there is no use of hiding. But these abilities he escapes death or being hurt by flying swords aimed at him with grace and beauty. Ubuyashiki thought most of attempt were by demon slayers or even the pillars. Besides the 2 pillars he was on good terms with rest and 3 were always ready to slice his head off. Even though he was strong he had no training with hand-to-hand combat. Ubuyashiki was thinking of this, maybe Uzui, Mitsuri and Rengoku might help him training. On the note of training, Nezuko was doing excellent with her training. She taught her first water form and was currently learning the second water form. She was doing excellent, but nobody was going to tell because it might affect her and her training. Ubuyashiki came out of his world of thoughts and said to the pillars. Tanjiro had gained his abilities, and I think he may be helpful with you fighting against demon. Dead silence filled the air. Ubuyashiki petting Tanjiro heads as he waited for a response from them. You want us to carry a demon with us on a mission, even though it might attack us? Shinobu said with her signature fake smile. If he wanted to attack you, he would have done it a long time ago. Ubuyashiki said with a tiny strand of annoyance. This shut Shinobu up and she stayed silent. This shut any negative comments from any pillars except Rengoku and Mitsuri, who seem excited to bring Tanjiro along with them. Rengoku, you are the first to take Tanjiro out on a mission with you. There is a box here made from pine wood. Light, durable and sealed completely so sunlight can't get in. Pick him up when the crow delivered your mission to you. Tanjiro would be waiting here for you. After you next would be Mitsuri, Uzui, Jayame, Shinobu, Iguro, Jayui, Tsunemi, Michiro. Is that understood? Yes, Ubuyashiki-sama, they said union. Good, you are dismissed. Enjoy your free time wisely. But that all except Rengoku and Mitsuri who stayed behind as the others left. Can we see Tanjiro, Ubuyashiki-sama, Mitsuri said. But they nodded, the 2 step into the cool and shady meeting room. Tanjiro still was asleep, and with a nudge from Ubuyashiki, he awoke from his sleep to see Rengoku and Mitsuri. Quickly getting up he ran over to them and gave them hugs, and in return got head pats. Mitsuri and Rengoku sat down as Tanjiro shrink into his kid form and sat on Rengoku lap as he plays with his bangs. Mitsuri enjoyed seeing Tanjiro being cute and couldn't wait to carry him with her. Thinking of that, she had a question for Ubuyashiki. Ubuyashiki-sama, what made you think that carry Tanjiro on missions would help us on demon slaying? Tanjiro abilities can be useful against demons and he will get experience from this. This would also bring down the chance of you and your fellows pillars getting hurt or worse killed. Tanjiro looked sad and worried when he heard the word killed. Turning to Mitsuri, he made grabbing moments with his hands. Mitsuri gladly lifted him out of Rengoku lap and onto hers. He began to fiddle with her long braids to distract himself. As you can see, Tanjiro worries about you and pillars very much. With him, the likely chance of that is lower when you have him, Ubuyashiki said with a smile. Nezuko said anything about this, or does she know? Rengoku asked. No, I haven't, but she will be willing to go along with it. She doesn't want anyone to die or get hurt. This is why she is training, to help the Corps. Ubuyashiki answered. Thank you for your time and thank you for letting us see Tanjiro. Mitsuri and Rengoku said in union. Picking up Tanjiro from her lap, she placed him on the ground and told him that they were going. Tanjiro looked sad but gave them goodbye hugs before waving goodbye at the two pillars leaving. Are you ready to help them slay demons, Tanjiro? Ubuyashiki said. With a fist up in the air, he said MMMPGF, which translates to yeah, yes. It was already morning and Tanjiro sat alone, leaning against a box. He was told by Ubuyashiki to wait for Rengoku until he reaches. Tanjiro had been waiting for Rengoku for about an hour now. Footsteps and the smell of fire burning, Tanjiro knew it was Rengoku who was coming. Tanjiro got more and more excited as closer Rengoku came. Finally turning the corner, Rengoku came to see a very excited Tanjiro and beside him the box. With a smile, he walked over and pet Tanjiro before pointing to the box. With a nodded, Tanjiro shrank and climbed in the box. Rengoku shutting the box before carefully lifting the box onto his back. Surprisingly, Tanjiro and box were super light, which will make his mission easier than expected. Rengoku started off on his mission. His mission was a series of people disappearing at an inn and were never found. The journey to the village is a 3-day travel, and by the height of the sun in the sky, afternoon wasn't far off. Quicken his steps so he could shorten the time and travel faster before night falls. After Tanjiro climbed into the box, he went to sleep. He didn't fear Rengoku, so he easily trusts him. It was nightfall when Tanjiro felt a disturbance. Rengoku had traveled more than half of the journey and was nearing a rundown shack. It was already night and the shack would make a nice shelter for the night. Tanjiro smelled two demons nearby. He began to growl like dog. This was Tanjiro's way of warning, and Rengoku was smart enough to understand it. Now taking extreme cautious even though he was tired. Taking out his sword and walked towards the shack where he thought the demon was. He was correct, but another demon was lurking in the bushes like a professional creep, waiting for Rengoku to turn his back towards it. Turning to enter the shack, the demon made a mad dash towards Rengoku, only to get hit with Tanjiro foot going Mach 1. The demon head was sent flying and spinning like a top. All Rengoku heard was the burst open of the box, something sent flying and a something heavy dropping. Feeling the box lighten as Tanjiro jumped out of the box to take care of the body. Tanjiro kicks the body away, not trusting it, and turned to Rengoku, nodded at him. Rengoku nodded back as he walks into the shack to deal with demon inside. Tanjiro went over to headless demon body and poke it with his nail. Seeing no response, he moved away to look for Rengoku and to see if he's okay. Not seeing the body growing back its head. Rengoku had just killed the demon who was hanging on ceiling like a bat and just ended it with a single swing. Turning to leave the shack and check on Tanjiro. Seeing Tanjiro walking towards him but saw a demon behind him. Tanjiro, look out! Rengoku shouted. But that Tanjiro looked behind and only to hit in stomach by the demon. Rengoku using his first breathing form ended its life there. Now with all demons dead, Tanjiro once shrinks into a child, climbed into his box and sleep. Rengoku camped out in the shack and kept Tanjiro close to him. Soon day came and two were once again on the move. Reaching the village by mid-afternoon, Rengoku signed into the inn with the disappearing people. The once well-known and very busy inn barely has anyone in it. Checking the check-in book, only 3 people were staying here besides Rengoku and Tanjiro. A woman named Suki, room 12. A father and his daughter, their names were Hoisuke and Namue. Their room were 10 and Rengoku and Tanjiro room is 11. Closing the book, Rengoku headed towards his room and on the way, checking to see any signs of demons. Opening his room, it was medium-sized room with a futon in the middle of the room. A door leading to a veranda looking over the village. Another door leading to a bathroom. Setting the box down close to his bed in the sunlight, he relaxes on the futon and thought of a way to lure the demon. These thoughts turned towards Tanjiro. His amazing smelling ability, his aggressiveness towards demon presence can help him. leaving sleeping Tanjiro in his room and making sure the door was close. He left to get food, not noticing the demon who had interest with the box he was carrying. The demon was Suki. She had been feasting on the poor mortals since she ever first arrived, leaving often and creating a reasonable explanation for her behavior. She hasn't been caught for months and every demon slayer who stayed her, she killed them on their first night here. Not a lot of people visit her often anymore once the disappearance became more and more none. Her usually buffet was now mere pickings. Hearing that demon slayer was coming not only made her hungry but also curious. She wants to see how he would behave and strong they were. Seeing the demon slayer carrying a box on his back which was giving off a strange but familiar aura spiked her curiosity. She was going to kill the demon slayer tonight, but she changed her mind. The father and daughter the door down would do just fine for a late night snack. Seeing the demon slayer leaving his room, avoiding the sunlight, she walked over to his room and opened the door. Looking over, her eyes fell on the box. The box was in the sunlight, making it impossible for her to reach. Turning around, she exits the room quickly and walked towards her room. Rengoku coming back with food came in time to see Suki entering her room. Paying her no more mind, entered his room to feel something off. Someone had entered his room when he was gone. Checking to see if Tanjiro was okay. Tanjiro was peacefully sleeping in his box, shutting the door and sitting down to eat his food. He thought of who could enter his room, and Suki was a target. What did he have that she wanted? The sun was setting and night was arriving. Rengoku was currently taking a nap after the long journey he and Tanjiro had. He sleeps peacefully, not knowing the intent of the demon in disguise. Tanjiro was waking up from his sleep and gently pushed the box open. The setting sun threw yellow rays at the room, turning the once blue sky orange and yellow, turning white clouds pink and purple. Tanjiro crawled from his box and his from the setting sun rays, but enjoy the view, wishing he could stand in sun rays without being harmed by it. Hearing Rengoku move in his sleep, Tanjiro checked on the older male. Seeing that he was still sleeping, Tanjiro returned to his spot and watched the sunset and moon rise. Seeing that night has arrived, Tanjiro went and shook Rengoku awake, but the male only shifts and continues sleeping. This annoyed Tanjiro and once by more forceful begin to shake Rengoku, successful waking him up and also annoyed him. Not caring that he annoyed Rengoku, he pointed towards the night sky, telling him that's it's nighttime. Rengoku, understanding, tried his best to brush off wrinkles out of his uniform, before pointing towards the box which Tanjiro climbed in obediently before closing it. Rengoku, picking up the box, headed out to find clues or lucky enough the demon who caused this. Random fun fact. I woke up to see 37 notifications on Wattpad. Stepping out of his room, he went over to check his neighbors, but not before closing the door behind him. Knocking on room 10 door, a tall but sick-looking man with a young girl holding his hand looking worried. "Sir, I'm here to inform you that there is a demon around here and you and your daughter are in danger," Rengoku said. The man, who already looked bad, looked worse when he heard the news. He wasn't worried for himself but his daughter. She was going to be 10 in a month and was going to celebrate with her mother, who also sick. The difference was the two wasn't supposed to marry each other, and when the news got out, the mother family was quick to hunt them down and tear it apart. They found the happy family, living in a decent house on a hill surrounded by flowers. The girl was a few weeks old when her family were torn from each other and her father left with her. He fell into depression and soon got an unknown sickness, with his family being poor as well as him. He worked multiple jobs just to take care of her. Hearing the news, he worried how he would protect the only thing he has left in his life. The daughter gripped her father's hand tightly. She didn't know what a demon was. Rengoku noticed the sudden change in behavior and began to reassure them. "Fear not, for I am a demon slayer and my job is to slay demons and protect the sick and weak," he said with his smile that could rival the sun. The man looked at Rengoku, thinking whether or not to use him a dummy and ditch this place with his daughter. Tanjiro chooses the perfect time to shift into a more comfortable position in the box. The noise catching the man, his daughter and the demon who couldn't mind her business. All eyes were now on the box. Rengoku was in a real pickle and he doesn't know what to do. His mind raced to find a reasonable answer before an idea struck him. "I'm carrying a fox in this box. I was ordered to carry it to its new owner after killing the demon who is here," Rengoku said. The room was quiet, even the demon was now quiet. She was thinking of eating those two humans, but the darn demon slayer ruins her plans. Why not a surprise attack? They would never know. Open her door quietly and carefully, stepping out to not attract attention. She wasn't a very powerful demon, but she did know how to use demon blood art. Her one was using her blood to create animal servants. Other than that, she was completely useless. Her physical strength wasn't there and she lacked a brain. Cutting her arms, she mutters animal servants, causing her blood to turn into random small animal. She sends to attack and an army of small animals came storming after the poor people who wanted to only live. Rengoku, hearing a noise, turned to meet tiny crazy-looking animals coming towards him. Pushing the man and the girl behind him, he uses his first form of flame breathing to slash the animals. The demon, using her animals as a distraction, ran past Rengoku and tried to attack the man and his daughter. But Tanjiro said no and came flying out of the box and punched her into wall. The girl and her father were surprised. The man saw a demon fight another demon. The girl, thinking why two strange-looking people were fighting each other. The lady demon took the impact hard and crashed into the wall. She was surprised to see a demon working alongside a human, or better yet a demon slayer. Quickly creating a flying squirrel, she whispered something to it before sending it off, but Tanjiro saw this and quickly tried to grab her and squirrel, but the squirrel was too small to grab and it ran off. Rengoku was taking the army of small animals with style. One after the other, the animal died by his sword and flame breathing. Turning to see Tanjiro dragging a female demon by the hair while the father and daughter stood their distance but watched the scene. Tanjiro didn't know if he became stronger or she was just weak cause she went down on the first hit. Leaving Rengoku to finish her, he jumps back into box and closed the door. Rengoku slicing her head off with no hesitation before turning around and explaining what just happened. The man stood quietly while his daughter tried to understand but failed. Did he really see a demon fight another of its kind? He decided to believe it. Thanking the demon slayer and of course to say thank you to the demon, he went back to his room and closed the door. Rengoku returned to his room and closed the door before setting the box against the wall. Great job, Tanjiro, you helped save lives. If you were human instead, I would gladly make you my student. Have a good rest, Tanjiro. Rengoku said before heading to bed. While Rengoku and Tanjiro slept peacefully through the night, the fly squirrel was heading towards a fortress. Even with its master dead, it could survive for a few hours before dying. Reaching the fortress, the squirrel jumped on a guard demon before whispering something in its ear. The demon rushed to taking out the squirrel into the fortress to find Muzan and tell him of its master discovery. Running into the fortress, the forest shift around him until the room he was in, a room with the upper moons and Muzan himself. Bound before the demon lord, he waited for his permission to speak. What make you think you can run in her like this? Muzan spoke. One of demon from the southern parts has brought information by this squirrel. The squirrel was told to tell you full description of the demon. He spoke, feeling his skin crawl under Muzan's gaze. A demon? Muzan asked, already getting bored. Yes, a demon that fights against demon and that doesn't eat human flesh, but has incredible strength and speed. He spoke, shaking with fear. Hand me squirrel, Muzan said with confusion and rage in his voice. Yes my lord, he walked before bowing down again, but the squirrel in his hands. Muzan grabbed the squirrel and sent the demon off. The poor demon doing his job ran quickly away and once again the room shift with a trum of his strings. Speak, Muzan said to the squirrel. The demon of medium height was turned into a demon 2 months ago, wearing a bamboo tube over his mouth. Long brunette hair with red highlights that reach his back and bangs that reach his shoulders. A fire scar on right side of his head and blood red eyes. Wears a checker haori and wears a pair of earrings. Abilities are unknown beside being able to shrink into a child and turn back into his normal self. Stronger than any turned demons even though he hasn't eaten human flesh. The squirrel said before it was crushed to death. Muzan was mad, a demon who was free from his control. A demon who doesn't eat humans. A demon who fight demons. A demon working with a demon slayer to help eradicate their existence. Yet he also curious, a newly turned demon with shrinking ability, and even though it didn't eat human flesh, it was incredibly strong, and from the description it gave, the boy sound cute. Oma, I want you to go and watch this demon and report back anything worth mentioning. You heard the description of demon, so get going. Akaza, go with and make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. You have a week to capture him and bring him back in perfect condition or I'll have both of your heads. The rest of you are dismissed. Muzan said before turning away. But the trum of strings, the room shift and Muzan was gone. Leaving the demons to ponder on this new information. You heard the Lord Doma. Let's get this over with. Akaza said standing up. Oh Akaza. You're so mean to be me. Aren't you happy that we're going on a mission together? Doma said. With you never. Now hurry up, our lord doesn't like to wait. Akaza said as the fortress shift and he disappear. Wait for me Akaza. Doma shouted before following him and the fortress once again shift. Now Doma and Akaza sent on a mission, the rest of Upper Moon was trying to understand the information. How could a demon do such a thing? How wasn't he dead yet? Isn't he hungry? Without knowing, Namki has shift the fortress and they were now outside and was forced to retreat back to their hideout. Now to Akaza and Doma. Akaza and Doma were traveling by hopping from tree another to reach the south area quicker. With no description of the area beside that it was very dense with trees. A village not far from the fortress was full of trees and had many lakes or ponds. Since being demons, traveling was way easier and soon reached the outskirts of the village. Back to Tanjiro. Tanjiro was woken up with a weird gut feeling. He didn't know why, but decided to take a walk. Maybe the walk and the smell of fresh was all he needed because being stuck inside a box for hours can be stressful. Opening his box, he carefully climbed out. The clock said it was 8:34 and village was dead quiet. Opening the door to the veranda and closing it. He hopped from veranda to a nearby rooftop without making a sound. Tanjiro began to hop from rooftop to rooftop until reached the edge of village. Using his strength, Tanjiro leaped from the roof and landed graceful on a tree branch a couple yards from the house. Unaware of two pair of eyes watching him, he jumped down and grew back to his normal height. Enjoy the scenery of the trees and the night sky. Tanjiro started his walk, his footsteps not making a sound but only a crunch when stepping on leaves. The cool breeze relaxed Tanjiro as it played with brunette hair. It was full moon, and the moonlight did nothing but enchant Tanjiro beauty. The moonlight reflected off Tanjiro's hair and illuminate his fair skin. His eyes shone like rubies, and his claws sparkles like jewels. His checker Haori gentle moving back and forth. To Akaza and Doma, it was finding something that died out million of years ago, and now it's priceless. He was something beyond them, even with bamboo tube, he was worth so much. Deep into their own thoughts, they didn't notice that Tanjiro had spotted them. Tanjiro's eyes caught two figures hiding in the shadows of trees. Wanting to see if they were okay, he headed towards them. Coming closer he noticed that they were demons, but looked far different from the one he seen. Coming closer to get a better view of them, they snap out of their world of thoughts. Only to find Tanjiro right next to them. Tanjiro had bought multiple keychains to hang on his bag. He got them specially made and arrived today in a box. Nezuko opened the door to find a mailman asking if Tanjiro Kamado was home. Tanjiro, hearing the door, ran down and greeted Nezuko and the mailman before signing the papers. The mailman handed over the box and left. Excitement was written on Tanjiro's face. Nezuko now was curious on what was in the box that could create such an expression on her brother's face. Opening the box and showing his sister, in the box were keychains with a mini Inosuke, Zenitsu, Nezuko and Tanjiro on each end of the chains. Nezuko was marveled by how adorable they look. Nezuko hold up the keychain with a mini Tanjiro and another with Kanao and Mitsuri. "Can I have this, brother?" Nezuko asked. "Of course, Nezuko, anyway I was going to order more, but I'll make you do the honors," Tanjiro said with his blinding smile. Nezuko jumped with joy and hugged her brother before running off to computer they share with the rest of the family. Tanjiro with a smile took the rest of the chains to his room. Picking up his bag, he hooked Zenitsu and Inosuke one to a zipper and Nezuko to his phone case. With a smile he places his bag on a coat hanger in his room before helping his sister with the new chains. Time skip. Tanjiro was heading to school, wearing a black turtleneck with his black and green checkered coat and a pair of black jeans. A black and white Vans. Nezuko was wearing a pinkish red hoodie, a white shirt underneath. She wears blue jeans with pink Vans. The Kamado siblings were the beauty of the school, everything about was just perfect, and today they were more beautiful. The two walks through halls to get to their lockers which was placed side by side. During the walk a couple of specific people were watching them as they walked past. Tanjiro had joined the two, with a shy smile said hello to the siblings. Getting a double hello from the siblings, he loosens up and started a conversation with the two. The three walks past the pillars having some sort of quarrel. The pillars are the student council and they watch over everyone. They take care of major school events and hold fundraisers if they need money. In short, they are the foundation of the school alongside the teachers and everyone else of importance. The pillars were composed of 9 members, 7 males and 2 females. Kanao is the sister of the female pillar and Genya the brother of a male pillar. Sanjuro had an older brother who was a pillar as well. Mitsuri and Kanao both liked Nezuko, even though Nezuko rarely talked to them. Their feelings for Nezuko grew and so did the competition for Nezuko's heart. Zenitsu and Inosuke were coming from the track field when they spot Tanjiro, Nezuko and Sanjuro walking past. Zenitsu and Inosuke both blush at how pretty Tanjiro looked before brushing it off and catching up to them. Coming closer to Tanjiro and Nezuko, they noticed many of them hanging by a chain from Tanjiro's bag. Inosuke and Zenitsu face reddened, embarrassed by this. Kanao and Mitsuri joined them to see what they were doing since they are trailing behind the trio. Mitsuri then noticed her and Kanao hanging from a chain connected to Nezuko bag. Mitsuri blushed and tapped Kanao's shoulder and pointed towards it. Kanao blushed seeing the scene. The group of 4 suddenly stopped when they noticed the trio they were following had disappeared. Telling each that they'll meet for break or lunch, they left for their classes. School was over and the trio meet up by Tanjiro and Nezuko lockers. Now Sanjuro wasn't like the 2 outgoing Kamado siblings or his brother. He was shyer, but this shyness made him special and unique to someone. That someone was Genya. Now don't attack me for this, I just didn't want this bean to be left out of the love. A rude, easy to anger male, like the shy and submissive male. So, you could say opposite attract. He was meaning to ask him out today, but he was with his friends. Even though they rarely talked to each other, it was enough for Genya. So, he decided to find Zenitsu, Inosuke, Mitsuri and Kanao. They were planning to go to shopping. Finding the group at the gate, Genya asks if he could join. He was answered with smiling faces, except Inosuke, and told to reach the mall by 4. Time skipped to 4 p.m. The gang was there, all in their comfortable clothes. Ready to spend money on useless items, clothes, food and so much more. After spending most of their money, they decided to go a new shop that opened. To their surprise, the trio was there smiling and giggling over chains and many people. Even though they were wearing comfortable clothes, they still looked like models. Nezuko was wearing a oversized pink hoodie that reached her thighs and black sweatpants with blue Vans. Tanjiro was wearing a yellow hoodie with red jeans and purple Vans. Tanjiro wearing a yellow sweater and dark blue jeans with pink Vans. In their hands were chains with many people on them. Nezuko, Tanjiro, which one looked better? Tanjiro said, holding up 2 chains. One chain had a 6-eyed demon with a sword, the other had a demon with pink hair, yellow eyes, basketball markings, and was in a fighting stance. Tanjiro for some odd reason didn't like the pink hair demon. Nezuko didn't care for neither of them. Anyone you like, Tanjiro, they both said in union. Tanjiro decides to get both before spotting the gang staring through the window. Isn't that Inosuke, Zenitsu, Mitsuri, Kanao and Genya staring at us? Tanjiro pointed. The two turned their head towards the gang before giving them their signature smile. Nezuko leaned over and whispered something into Tanjiro's ears, making him blush. Tanjiro was puzzled but decided to mind his own business. You guys can join if you want, Tanjiro said. Tanjiro was surprised that Tanjiro would say something like that, but smiled that his friend was coming out of his shell. The gang quickly entered the store with bags and bags of items and clothes. They were on the verge of being broke. But luckily the trio had it in mind to buy for them something special. Don't worry guys, we'll pay for your stuff, and anyway, we got something special for you anyway. Tanjiro said with Nezuko and Tanjiro backing him up. The group was baffled at the trio, they were willing to spend their money on them. They were touched and if possible, fell more in love. They began to spread out as the trio still chose between their keychains. The trio head over to the counter and paid for a bunch of chains. They came over and Tanjiro grabbed Genya's hand before leaving the shop with him. Nezuko took Mitsuri and Kanao's hand as she did the same. Leaving Tanjiro, Inosuke and Zenitsu in the shop. Tanjiro offered his hands to them. Inosuke and Zenitsu both blushed as they took his hand before leaving. Ah. Young love is quite beautiful, I remember mines, said the old lady to herself as she smiles. She was helping out the owner today. The trio had planned things out and was taking the steps needed to be a success. They finally caught up with news and now they want to show their love. Tanjiro was going to south side of park, Nezuko the center of the park and Tanjiro north. They would meet each other at the entrance of the park with their lover per second. Imagine how you want them to confess to each other and share it in the comments. The group was now flushing with embarrassed teens and the happy trio. They finally gotten what they want and now were a little happier with life. They all meet up at the entrance at the park. So, to celebrate their relationship they would go out on a triple date. But since it is late the group parted with goodbye and kisses. Keychains hung on personal items like phone cases, keys and bags. They were treasure to them and they wouldn't trade them for anything. These little things are quite the love charm, isn't it? YN said smiling as YN held up one of the keychains. Yes, they are, YN Author-chan answered with a smile. You want one? Yes, but after we go and eat something. I'm hungry, YN answered. I'm the one paying, isn't it? Author-chan looked at YN. Always, YN answered with a cheeky smile. Let's go, I know place known for their udon noodles and dessert, Author-chan said leaving. Hey, wait up for me, Author-chan. YN said running after Author-chan. The strength of Tanjiro. Tanjiro looked at Akaza and Doma before reaching his hands out and petting them. Akaza and Doma were surprised, nothing they encountered prepared them for this. Tanjiro was far different from other demons. Tanjiro was calm and curious, while others were quick to judge and kill. Tanjiro continues to pet them as he features shows happiness. Akaza, embarrassed unlike Doma who was enjoying the attention he was getting, tried to move Tanjiro's hand from his hair. Grabbing Tanjiro's hand and moving it away, Tanjiro looked at Akaza with confusion. Tanjiro moved his hands towards Akaza's head, only to be stopped by Akaza's hand. Tanjiro frowned and began to move his hand. Akaza was shocked to see Tanjiro able to move his hand towards him, even with his solid grip. Doma, with a huge smile on his face, grew bigger as he saw Akaza struggling to stop Tanjiro's hand. Doma was living the dream, getting pats and watching Akaza struggle. Doma was starting to get interesting with Tanjiro. Tanjiro now his fangs sinking into the bamboo tube and his eyes sharpen. Veins were popping out on his hands and face. He was fighting against 𝗗𝗃's solid grip and he was winning. 𝗗𝗃 was struggling, his veins were showing and his eyes sharpen. His teeth were pushing against each other as sweat began to form. Tanjiro didn't let up his attempt but began to push his hand with more force as his feet dig into the ground as support, all while petting Doma with his other hand. 𝗗𝗃 felt Tanjiro nails brush against his hair before Tanjiro placed his hand on his head. Tanjiro had successfully beaten 𝗗𝗃 and once again Tanjiro was happy petting the two upper moons. They were impressed that Tanjiro was able to beat 𝗗𝗃's strength. The feeling of Tanjiro petting them vanished when Tanjiro decides to just leave because he felt tired. Walking away from them but without waving goodbye, Tanjiro left the two upper moons standing by themselves. They were amazed by Tanjiro's strength and his attitude. Tanjiro truly was something. The two left to find a hideout of some sort and if they're lucky munch on some humans on the way. Tanjiro had slipped into the room to find Rengoku still asleep, carefully shutting the door and shrinking into a child. Tanjiro crawled into the box and closed the door. Tanjiro closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep. Tanjiro still was asleep when Rengoku headed back towards Ubuyashiki house to drop off Tanjiro and report about the mission. It's Nezuko time. I was quite upset about the news of using Tanjiro to help pillars on mission, but it was for the greater good. It's been 2 days since the flame pillar took Tanjiro with him and my training was going well. I have shortly finished my daily training and was heading towards home when I heard a commotion. A yellow hair male with a high ponytail was crying and clinging to a girl with a side ponytail wearing a butterfly clip. They were joined a tall male wearing purple who looked similar to the wind pillar and a male wearing a boar head. I looked at the group before feeling a tug from my hair to see my sister with yellow string in her hair. She had smile on her face before she took my hand and lead me towards the group. Your names are Zenitsu, Inosuke, Kanao and Genya. Mr. Ubuyashiki would like to talk to you. Nezuko's sister said with a small smile. Without another word she walks away and taking you with her. The group looked at you before slowly following you. Sister? Rengoku-san had just come back and brother is here. Are you happy just like me? Nezuko's sister with a smile. Of course, I am. How could you say such a thing? I answered with a laugh as we came closer to our house. The group was trailing after us. Entering the Ubuyashiki yard and heading towards the meeting room. Pillars were coming in and the group following slowed down their pace as they came closer. Turning the corner was Tanjiro laying on Ubuyashiki's lap. Me and my sister hurried over and sat beside father. Tanjiro taking notice of arrival greeted us. Ubuyashiki got up and brushed himself before my next sister with red string in her hair appeared. Rengoku, how was the mission with you and Tanjiro? Ubuyashiki said. It went well and Tanjiro helped. Tanjiro protects me from a demon and even took down the demon who was causing the trouble. Rengoku said. Ubuyashiki, the pillars and the group earlier looked at Tanjiro. Tanjiro was lying on floor, swinging his legs back and forth in the air. His arms lay flat as he continued, paying no mind to people watching him. I see Tanjiro had behaved and did well on his first mission and protect Rengoku. Mitsuri, you are next to take Tanjiro and I have a mission for you. Tomorrow head towards the village surrounded by mist. There is a demon kidnapping boy of very young age. You and Tanjiro set off tomorrow morning. Is that understood? Ubuyashiki said. Yes sir, Mitsuri answered, feeling excited that it was her turn to take Tanjiro. The pillars are dismissed and the group of 4 shall stay. Ubuyashiki said, looking at the group. The pillars excused themselves before leaving. The group settled in area where the pillars sat. So, 2 of the 4 of you killed demons without being demon slayers. Explain yourself. News came to me that 2 of you aren't qualified demon slayer, yet you slay demons. For what condition did you 2 slay? Ubuyashiki said, looking at them. It was quite obvious who was one of them. The yellow hair male was shaking with fear as tears began to fall from his eyes. Me and this wimp are the ones that aren't demon slayers, the male in purple said. We saw demons attacking some children, so we saved them. The purple male said. What is all your names besides Kanao? Ubuyashiki spoke. My name is Inosuke Hashibira, the king of the mountain, the one with boar on his head said with a proud voice. My name is Zenitsu Agatsuma, the yellow hair male said, shaking and trying not to cry. My name is Genya Shinazagawa, the tall male wearing purple said, bowing. Tanjiro eyes shift from staring at ceiling and swinging his legs to staring at the group and laying on the ground. Ubuyashiki, Nezuko and her family were used to Tanjiro odd's behavior. The group was weirded out by Tanjiro weird behavior before Ubuyashiki's wife came and called for Tanjiro, Nezuko and their sisters to follow her. Like the good children they were, they all got up and left. Tanjiro, before exiting the room, turned and waved at them before chasing after his mom and siblings. Tanjiro taking their attention for a couple of seconds before facing Ubuyashiki. Ubuyashiki looked at the group in front of him. He knew much better what the pillars would say, so that's why he sent them away before addressing this information. Looking at group in front of him, he knew they wouldn't do anything bad besides the one with the boar head. The group probably had to control the boar-wearing male to behave himself. The yellow hair one must be problem when it comes to him crying. He seems to cry when he is in danger or just scared. Kanao is just like Shinobu, so not much different besides the hair. Genyu is Sanemi younger brother, who looks like he has anger issues. Ubuyashiki could see this group must be chaotic group with its member and their behavior. Put aside that, they make up a solid team. Ubuyashiki decide to let the two take the exam with his daughter Nezuko. You two are free of consequences, but you must take the exam next month. You two must not engage in any demon slaying until you are passed. With this said, you are dismissed. Ubuyashiki said while turning to them. Ubuyashiki was to get Tanjiro ready for his mission tomorrow with Mitsuri, so he had his day planned. The group had already left, so he made his way inside his house. Reaching the living room, Tanjiro was helping his wife with the cleaning. Nezuko and his daughter were cooking food while the two clean. Ever since Nezuko and Tanjiro came, the two were like family. Always helping around the house or with the cooking. Since Tanjiro doesn't eat but sleep, the house was adjusted to be more comfortable. Tanjiro would keep his sisters occupied when they weren't busy. He and his sisters would patiently wait for Nezuko to arrive home from training. Nezuko would explain her training to them while they eat supper. Ubuyashiki sat and smiled to himself, he was lucky to have such a family. Tanjiro finished cleaning and ran over to Ubuyashiki as he lay his head on his lap. His wife joined the girls in the kitchen as the food was being prepared. Ubuyashiki fiddled with Tanjiro's long hair as he thinks. Tanjiro should be able to cope with the mist because of his demon eyesight. Nezuko was going to take the exam next month. His daughters aren't exposed to the world yet. All these thoughts bounce around his head. Father, I'm going to market to get some vegetables needed for supper, Nezuko said. She had a basket in her hand. Ubuyashiki nodded as Nezuko left for the market. Tanjiro had moved to a more comfortable position as he began to fall asleep. Ubuyashiki once again thanked the gods for his family. Nezuko was a fast walker and was already at the market, buying the vegetables and extra items that they need. Nezuko spotted the group of earlier having trouble with a salesman. Nezuko quickly paid for her items as she placed them in her basket. Nezuko walked over to see what was going on. The salesman was a well-known crook who liked to scam people into buying his useless junk, especially people who was new here. His name was Tai, heard his parents went to place called Thailand. So that's where he got his name. Nezuko Pav. Leave them alone Tai and give them back their money you crook, I said with disapproval on my face. Tai gave me ugly look and I returned the favor. Why don't you mind your business Nezuko, he said with disgusted on his face. I thought crooks like sticking their noses into people's businesses. Why change now? You do have the biggest nose, I said with a smile on my face. People around us were laughing or giggling. The group was holding back a laugh. Tai was red as a tomato and was mad. Here, have your money and don't come back here ever again, Tai said with anger in his voice as he gives back the group their money. But people never do if you beg them, so feel all high and mighty if someone come back or isn't new to your looks. I said as walk away with the group with a smile on my face. People who heard us were laughing and the group were in tears as they joined the crowd of people laughing. Tai was angry and embarrassed as we walk away. Thank you so much for your help, Kanao said with a small smile on her face. I just can't see him rob you and your friends of your money and get away with it, I said with a award-winning smile. What's your name? I know you heard of ours, but we don't know yours, Kanao said, looking dead straight into my eyes. My name is Nezuko Ubuyashiki or Nezuko Kamado, whatever you prefer, I said again smiling. I turned to see the sun setting, I got to reach home before sunset. Got to go guys, hope to see you again, I said waving before running off. I just realized that I was supposed to bring the items to finish up supper. Welcome our guest Kanao Tsuyuri to the interview. Kanao. Author. So, how's your day? Kanao. Author. I'll take that as good then. Kanao. Author. Anyway, want to tell us about yourself? Kanao. Author. You're very quiet and like to keep to yourself, anything else? Kanao. Author. Thank you for your time Kanao, hope you have a wonderful day Kanao. Leaves. Author. Thank you, audience, for showing up, hope you enjoy this interview as we head into our next guest Ubuyashiki. Author. Hello Ubuyashiki-sama, how are you today? Ubuyashiki. I'm doing wonderful, and you? Author. I'm doing fine Ubuyashiki, thank you for asking. So, how's the family Ubuyashiki? They're doing fine, Tanjiro is getting stronger, Nezuko as well. My wife is as beautiful as ever and my daughters are growing up. I'm thankful that gods give me such a wonderful family. Author. Sounds like you have the perfect family. I wish you and your family the best and I'll see you around 𝗗𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵 next time. Bye bye. The journey to the Mist Village. After Nezuko arrived late to home with the items and after being scolded, they all ate supper and talked about their day. Tanjiro was going to go with Mitsuri on a mission the next day. Tanjiro was best for the task. A demon would give a far better chance of survival. The demon of the mist was a new lower moon that was devouring children, especially boys, almost every night. Mitsuri is flexible like a rubber, so dodging attacks would be easy for her, but what about attack? Tanjiro would be attacker because of his heightened senses and would lead Mitsuri to the demon. These were the thoughts of Ubuyashiki as he sat by the table as Tanjiro slept on his lap and the rest of his family clean up. Ubuyashiki cared for the pillars like they were his friends. Nezuko and Tanjiro like they were his, this why he put so much thought into this mission. Soon night came and everyone was fast asleep, the cool wind stirring leaves, branches and trees as it passed. The wind traveled to village surrounded by mist, the night was oddly peaceful as the demon rested in its hideout. Tanjiro stirred in his sleep, a particular scent was in the air, but the wind played with it. The wind letting Tanjiro smell for a bit before snatching it away. Repeating the cycle until it got tired and went away, carrying the scent with it. Letting Tanjiro sleep peacefully again. The owner of the scent was far, but the wind carried it for miles. The owner should be asleep at this time, or should they? The scent alone was mystery, and the owner wouldn't explain it. This person was full of mystery, but who could it be? The scent carried sadness, a very unfortunate thing. Soon morning came and the sun took over the sky, chasing or killing unlucky demons. The Ubuyashiki household were awake early like usually. Nezuko had to adjust with time, but she did it. Tanjiro usually wakes up with a couple nudges by his siblings. For the second time, Tanjiro sat beside his box as he waited for nice and pretty lady to come and get him. Tanjiro liked the pretty lady but couldn't remember her name. Her hair reminds him something of food but couldn't remember what. While Tanjiro was thinking, Mitsuri had arrived and ran up to Tanjiro. Giving Tanjiro a big hug, Tanjiro was now aware of Mitsuri. He returned the hug as Mitsuri's smile grew huger as the hug lasted longer. Mitsuri came with the rest of the pillars to Ubuyashiki house. Mitsuri was to complete a mission with Tanjiro, while the rest was here for a meeting. Jealous glares were given as Mitsuri hugged Tanjiro. Mitsuri saw Tanjiro as a younger brother instead of a lover, but she had eyes for a Komodo alright. Letting Tanjiro go and pointing to the box, Tanjiro happily shrunk and climbed into the box. Mitsuri wondered just how cute Tanjiro would get. Picking up the box and placing on her back, she walks past her jealous friends who glared at her while she giggled and smiled. Soon Mitsuri and Tanjiro were on the road and Ubuyashiki started the meeting. Mitsuri was a natural fast walker, so getting there would be quick. The village was full day and half travel if they didn't take breaks. But Mitsuri being human, it would take 3 days. Besides the village being surrounded by mist, there were 4 ways to enter the village. The village itself should be called a town. It was far too big to be a village. Surrounded by mountains at the back and the many but large bodies of water all round. Mitsuri was taking a shortcut and cut much of the travel. Cutting through the forest and straight to the mountains. Mitsuri was in jolly mood, making the travel more bearly. Time skipped to the mountains. It's been a day of traveling and Mitsuri had reached the mountain path. Day was coming and Mitsuri had started off on her journey again. Tanjiro was quiet beside the castle, scratching or knocking on the box. The mountain path was riddled with puddles of water, making the path more dangerous. The air was quite heavy and the path was leading up instead of down. Water made the path harder to walk on as Mitsuri's feet began to slide on the muddy ground. Mitsuri was having a miserable time and Tanjiro worst. The more Mitsuri slid and walked, the more the box shocked and bounced. Tanjiro was just miserable as hell. Mitsuri felt sorry for Tanjiro and decided to stop and relax under a rock that shaded them from the sun and water. Setting the box down and sitting herself, Mitsuri looked for an easier way to travel this path. By the road condition, it rained a lot earlier, making the path a hellish pain of a travel. The path climbed a little further up before it vanishes, giving hope that the path finally goes down. Mitsuri picked up the box before the muddy climb, which lucky at the top goes down and into the village. But there was a problem, it was vertical down path. One mistake and Mitsuri and Tanjiro would be sliding down the path at amazing speed. The painfully slow descent, which felt like hours and was hours, began as Mitsuri's mood only soured and grew more miserable with every step. Tanjiro was feeling Mitsuri's mood through the whole thing. At this point Tanjiro began to get salty. The whole trip was hell. He was about to throw himself out the box when Mitsuri finally reached the village. Tanjiro relaxes as the tired but now overjoyed Mitsuri walked the now level out path into the village. It was mid-afternoon, but Mitsuri rented a room. Putting Tanjiro into a dark corner, Mitsuri changed into a ride before climbing into the futon. Mitsuri was out like a light, she was exhausted, and when she woke up, she'll probably eat enough food to end a village hunger. Tanjiro climbed out before growing into his normal height. He began to stretch before shrinking again and climbing into the box. Closing the box, Tanjiro got comfy and being to sleep, thankful that it was over. Mitsuri slept through the rest of the afternoon and into the evening. Tanjiro as usually was sleeping his day away. Mitsuri looked like she might wake up the next day. She was just dead tired. Soon evening turned to night and Mitsuri hasn't stirred from her sleep, and neither did Tanjiro. It was around 9 when a loud racket was heard throughout the village. Mitsuri woke up, tiredness was obvious, but mad was definition. Mitsuri was pissed and ready to cut heads off, demon or human. The loud racket continued, making going back to sleep not an option. Mitsuri changed into her uniform and was about to pick up her sword when during that loud racket came an even louder noise. The box door was quickly kicked open, and in anger, annoyed and tired Tanjiro came out. Tanjiro was ready to give someone some smoke. Mitsuri couldn't blame him, but just came over and patted his head. Tanjiro was calmer but still wanted to throw some hands. Shrinking, he climbed back into the box. Mitsuri took the box and headed towards the entrance of the inn. Outside was louder than inside the building, but there was nobody was outside. Heavy sleepers? Unlikely but possible. Mitsuri headed towards the sound. It was some sort of song, but it was more like warning signal. A place which seemed special stood in the edge of town, and there was a demon with a child in its arm. The child was kid no older than 9, he was crying waterfalls and seemed to be screaming. The noise drowns his scream as the demon laugh at his misery. The demon was quite ugly and cocky, his face was crushed into a square shape with plum lips and huge eyes. His body was far bigger than his head, and his arms and legs were short, skinny and marked. In its feet were pot and the other a pan, crashing the two together to make a hideous sound. The fog seems to thicken with each beat of the pan and pot. Mitsuri was tired but drew her word before charging at it. The child was stuck between its left arm and body. Mitsuri, being careful, leaped and cut the demon torso. The demon screamed as Mitsuri's sword cut through his torso and tore him in half. Mitsuri quickly swung her sword and successfully cuts its head off. The boy fell onto the roof and clinging to it. The pot and pan rattled as they dropped to the ground, but the sound only continued but more quietly. The boy was now more than scared, his body shook with fear, and he said, "You killed one of them, now their anger." Mitsuri was shocked, they weren't just one but more. Mitsuri knew killing the demon was easier than expected. The mist now surrounded Mitsuri and it was dead silent, the loud noise was gone. Tanjiro was scratching the box earlier, but Mitsuri ignored him, now he was clawing the box like he wanted out. Mitsuri took it as a sign as the demons were close as Tanjiro's scratching and clawing became more aggressive and louder. Soon the box bust open and Tanjiro came out, even though he was tired. Growing to his normal height, Tanjiro stood in a fight stance as he closed the box door. Tanjiro, now out of the box, made Mitsuri a little less light. With those demons of similar features of the demon from earlier came charging at them. The total of them were 7 if you counted the one Mitsuri killed. Tanjiro took the one closest to Mitsuri and let out his anger and frustration out on the demon. Solid blows were delivered, left in demon stunned as Mitsuri sliced its head off. And the cycle repeated, Tanjiro mercilessly punching demons, leading to Mitsuri finding it and killing it. Soon it was empty, and the two were very tired but cautious. The demons were far too easy. I told myself they couldn't fight for nothing, but no, I just had to recruit them. They weren't even pretty, and ugly would be understatement. A rather good-looking demon came out of mist. He eyed Tanjiro with interest, but was blocked off by a protective Mitsuri in fight stance. His mark was similar to a fog or chain of mist, his eye wore lower moon 6 markings. Mitsuri hadn't faced any demon of such rank, and neither did Tanjiro. What was worst was he seemed to be interested in Tanjiro. Without warning, the lower moon lunged at Tanjiro and successfully captured him before running away. Mitsuri ran after the lower moon. Even though she was tired, Tanjiro was in danger, and she couldn't afford to let him slip away from her. With these words, Mitsuri speed up and chase after the lower moon. The two onlookers were surprised at these actions, they wanted to help Tanjiro, but decided to just follow and enjoy the show. They know Tanjiro and the girl were more than capable of killing the lower moon. Leaping from branch to branch, they follow along. One wanted a snack, but the other said no. Tanjiro was tightly trapped between the lower moon arm and body. Shrinking himself, he slips out of his grip as he landed on his feet. The demon was shocked at this sudden transformation and came to stop. Tanjiro looked far too adorable in that state until Mitsuri arrived. Tanjiro was planning to look for Mitsuri, but she arrived. Now with Mitsuri safely beside him, Tanjiro grew back into his normal self as he steps forward and stood his ground. The lower moon say this as a challenge, and he happily accepts as he turned to face Tanjiro. Mitsuri understood the situation and walked towards a nearby tree and rest. Yet Mitsuri felt like it wasn't only them here. This going to be interesting, Tanjiro versus Lower Moon 6. Oh, who is going to win? Onlooker 1 spoke with excitement. Shut up, you're too loud, you might get us caught. Onlooker 2 said with annoyance. Don't be such a downer and place your bets. Onlooker 1 said. Tanjiro, of course, he hasn't reached his full potential yet. I feel sorry for Lower Moon 6, he's going to get beaten, he'll remember. Onlooker 2 spoke. Anyway, we can't get him killed because he wants him. Onlooker 2 said. The two heard a scream and both turned their head to see. Lower Moon 6 slowly approached Tanjiro as he stood his ground. Tanjiro eyes the Lower Moon as he approaches him before he leans and tried to scratch Tanjiro. Tanjiro quickly dodges the attack, Lower Moon left his side wide open and Tanjiro took the opportunity. Landed a solid blow on the Lower Moon side torso, he was knocked off balance and left himself wide open. Tanjiro now covering the Lower Moon midsection with punches and ended it with a kick to the gut. The Lower Moon was stunned, unable to understand why he was so fast and powerful for a demon who doesn't eat humans. The Lower Moon find it hard to get up, anger began to grow on the Lower Moon. The thoughts of being beaten by a mere low-level demon gave him the strength to punch Tanjiro into a tree. Tanjiro hits the tree, breaking it in half. Leaving an injured Tanjiro to try and recover in time. Lower Moon was tired but surprised with his strength but collapsed on the ground in pain. Tanjiro punches finally taking its impact. The demon was down and injured. Mitsuri wanted to help so badly but knew something out there wouldn't let it happen. So, all what Mitsuri could do was watch in pain and sadness at Tanjiro. The Lower Moon seemed to have recovered but Tanjiro hadn't moved a muscle. The fight seems to have been over. The Lower Moon was back in his feet, a smile on his face. Tanjiro had dealt fatal damage, leaving the Lower Moon in a weak condition. His thoughts moved the demon slayer girl from earlier. He could eat her then finish off the low-level demon. Mitsuri saw the look of the demon and with last bit of energy got in a defense stance. The Lower Moon lunged at Mitsuri, hoping to scratch her to bits and feast in her. Mitsuri was tired and couldn't move as agile as before. Mitsuri, though, this was end of the line and she had failed Tanjiro, Ubuyashiki, Nezuko and everyone else. I'm sorry Tanjiro, I've failed you, Mitsuri said with tears in her eyes as the Lower Moon was about to. The fist came from nowhere and sent the Lower Moon into bushes. There stood an injured Tanjiro, bleeding from his arms and his clothes torn. Tanjiro's main goal is to protect Mitsuri no matter what, even risking his life. The Lower Moon was in pain, his arms were broken and legs twisted. His body was unshaped and twist, his head was only bruise. He didn't expect such a violent and powerful attack from a low-level demon. Suddenly he surrounded by field of flowers under a bright moon. He felt calm and relaxed, staring at the twinkling stars who stared back at him. He felt at peace, even when Mitsuri came and sliced his head off. The Lower Moon felt no pain, but died a peaceful death. Mitsuri was surprised to see Tanjiro created such a scene with his blood demon art or even unlock it. Everyone in a 10 feet radius was trapped in illusion. Mitsuri took the chance and cut the Lower Moon head off. Mitsuri enjoyed the illusion, it was beautiful. Her opinion wasn't far off from the two onlookers who were amazed by Tanjiro and his blood art. He surpassed their expectations with flying colors. The two onlookers rushed back to their master to report. Tanjiro was still badly wounded as Mitsuri ran over to him. She didn't understand why his wounds healing wasn't. His wounds just keep on bleeding. Taking some bandages, she wraps it around his arms to stop the bleeding. Tanjiro, after being taken care of, shrank and pointed to the box. Mitsuri guessed he was tired and placed the box down so he can get in. After Tanjiro was secured and in his box, Mitsuri headed towards the village. Walk into the inn, ignoring the eyes and straight to her room. Mitsuri placed Tanjiro in a safe place before changing and going to sleep. A rare moment of peace fell on the village and would stay there. Mitsuri woke up the next day, still feeling tired, she heard chatter outside her room. You heard that the train track is finally finished. We can finally ride the train around instead of walking. A voice said. Yeah, I know, but when is first train gonna arrive? I want to test it out. Another voice answered in excitement. This evening a train from the Outo village will pass, it will go straight to the town a couple days travel away. The voice answered back. Mitsuri let her thoughts wander, a train here? This would make traveling much easier. She had money, so buying a ticket wouldn't be a problem. Mitsuri looked outside and noticed the sun was directly in the middle of the sky. It was afternoon already and mist was already thick. Mitsuri changed into her uniform and went down to the lobby of inn. She left the lobby and went to vendor. She ate almost everything he had to offer. Paying for it, she noticed the sun was beginning to set. Mitsuri hurried over to her room to collect Tanjiro before telling the innkeeper she was leaving. Mitsuri didn't know where the train station was, but she had an idea. Lucky her idea was right, the train station was there and the train had just come in. Buying here ticket, Mitsuri boarded the train. The seats could hold 4 to 3 people depending on their sizes. The seats were blood red and wood a shiny maroon. Sitting herself, she placed Tanjiro beside her. The train began to move, slowly picking up pace until the outside world was blurred to Mitsuri. The train occasionally rocked but it was nice. Mitsuri began to fall asleep, her eyes forcing themselves to open. Before giving up and closing themselves to the world. Mitsuri fell asleep, listening to the train rumble and the chatter of people. As the train rumbled on into the evening, carrying people effortlessly with its team. As Mitsuri and Tanjiro were on their way, Nezuko was preparing for the Demon Slayer exam in next 2 days. Her sisters came over and explained the rules to her while she trains at home. The final days of training should be spent with family because you never know if you'll come back alive. Nezuko practiced basic sword handling before going on to the advanced one. They were waiting for Mitsuri and Tanjiro to come back. It's been the 3rd day since Mitsuri and Tanjiro left and I have 1 more day before the exam. I really wanted to see Tanjiro before I leave. Mitsuri was spotted entering the yard, she looked horrible. Mitsuri didn't even bother with her usually cheerful self and just walked towards Ubuyashiki house. Her fellow pillars were worried about this behavior but left her be. Ubuyashiki was sitting around the table while his wife cooked lunch. Ubuyashiki saw a very unusual and worried sight, Mitsuri knew what he was seeing. She placed Tanjiro box beside her as she bowed before sitting down. Her fellow pillars following her actions. Ubuyashiki-sama, we killed the demons who were causing problems. Demons? Rengoku spoke. Yes, they were 7, and 1 lower moon, Mitsuri said looking at the box beside her before putting her hand atop of it. You eliminated all. Even the lower moon? Yuzui spoke with curiosity in his voice. Yes we did, but Tanjiro did majority of the work. He led me to them and I killed them. He even took down lower moon all by himself. Mitsuri spoke smiling at the box. What lower moon was it? Shinobu asked. Lower moon 6, Mitsuri answered still smiling at the box. How is Tanjiro, Mitsuri? Ubuyashiki said. I don't know how he is currently doing, but during the fight with the lower moon he was badly injured. His arms were bleeding badly and his clothes were torn. I bandaged him up but he hasn't made a sound so far. I think he's recovering and healing his body through sleeping, so I didn't disturb him. Mitsuri said with a small frown on her face. Wait, Tanjiro did just heal himself like any demon can. Iguro said. Seems not, his wounds just keep bleeding until I bandaged him. Mitsuri said quickly. Can we see Tanjiro? Ubuyashiki asked. Of course, Mitsuri answered. Getting up, she carefully opened the box and lifted a tiny but bandaged Tanjiro who was fast asleep. He seemed peaceful and Mitsuri would hate to wake him up. She carefully waked over to Ubuyashiki before laying him on his lap and before going back to her sitting down. Master Ubuyashiki, I forget to tell you that during the fight with Lower Moon 6, Tanjiro unlocked his demon blood art. Mitsuri said, gaining everyone's attention. Nezuko and his sisters were coming to help their mother out with lunch when they ran into them. Ubuyashiki's wife left the kitchen and picked up Tanjiro before heading towards his room before her children came. He unlocked his demon blood art, Jayui said in a question tone. Yes, his blood art was like an illusion created by what the user wants and has a certain radius of how far it goes. Depends on what illusion it uses, it gives the victim a similar emotion. With this power from Tanjiro, I was able to kill the lower moon. Mitsuri paused before starting again. He also seems to gain strength over time, each blow he gives becomes stronger with each one. He is quite unique for a demon who doesn't eat humans. Mitsuri smiled to herself. Ubuyashiki was pleased with this report from Mitsuri but didn't expect his son to be badly injured. Yet he still couldn't understand why he can't regenerate like other demons. Thank you Love Pillar for your work, you and the others are dismissed. Ubuyashiki said. Mitsuri nodded before leaving with her friends, leaving Ubuyashiki alone. Nezuko and her sister had taken over the kitchen while their mother take care of Tanjiro. At the Infinity Fortress. Muzan was digesting this newfound information. The demon boy named Tanjiro was far more powerful than he looks. He even unlocked his blood demon art without eating humans. He was truly something. Muzan was going to hold a meeting with his pathetic lower moons and kill them all for being useless. Tanjiro spare him of some work. Even though lower moon 6 was lazy and cocky but wasn't to be messed with. Yet he was able to cripple him beyond his regeneration abilities by a single punch. But he couldn't regenerate like any demon, but he's stronger than most. As Muzan stood and think, the upper moons were having a thinking festival in their heads. What was going to happen now? What will their master do about this? Is he a threat? Should we kill him? Will we kidnap him? Is he cute? Will he join us? Isn't interested in dating? These thoughts were flying through the upper moon's mind beside Daki, who just wanted to leave. 𝗗𝗲𝗵𝗵. Does this demon look more like a human instead of demon? Muzan asked. Yes master, if you hide his pupil, nails and teeth. He look like any other human. 𝗗𝗲𝗵 answered. Yes master, very pretty feature for a demon to have. The problem is that we can't locate him. 𝗗𝗲 said. We don't need to 𝗗𝗲, they kill demons. So I could plant something. But I don't need him just yet. You are dismissed, Muzan said as the room shift. Soon Muzan was gone and they were left to leave her talk among themselves. Aki left right way dragging her brother, the rest just sat there deep in thinking. Tanjiro was something they didn't expect, but he was something. The Mitsuri was at her house when it hit her. She didn't told Ubuyashiki about her suspicion of being watched. She told herself to remember when she walks up. She was soon asleep and thinking of food and her love interest. Soon now the thoughts of suspicion was soon forgotten as she sleep. Nezuko started early towards the location of the Demon Slayer exam with her sisters. Nezuko was nervous about this exam. She tried to reassure herself that she knew what she was doing and she is capable of passing it. Tanjiro had a week off to recover from his wounds. But he was up to give his sisters a hug before they leave. Tanjiro also found pink 𝗗𝗄𝗧𝗄𝗧. Nezuko was wearing her training uniform, so she smiled and pat Tanjiro before putting it on. Her family gave her a hearty breakfast before wishing her good luck and sending Nezuko off with her sisters. They approached the area, which was quite pretty for a killer exam. The thought of a place crawling with demons during the night wasn't nice. The three were early. Nezuko's sister left to their position, while Nezuko sat at the entrance waiting for the exam to start. Many teens came in different wear and with their swords. Some look eager while others look scared. Nezuko felt pain in her chest when the thought of few of them surviving and they look around her age. The pain that they'll never see their family again and their life cut short. This what pushed Nezuko forward to kill demons. Nezuko scanned the ever-growing crowd of teens. Not many girls were in the crowd. Nezuko also noticed eyes watching her and she didn't like. Nezuko then noticed 𝗃𝗍 and Genya some distance away. Soon the crowd began to split up into large groups and hang around the entrance as they wait. This left 𝗃𝗍 and Genya standing by the entrance. Her eyes shift to a group of boys not far from her. They were checking Nezuko out and she didn't like it. Taking that as an escape, Nezuko moved towards them with speed. Soon Nezuko was beside 𝗃𝗍 and Genya, smiling at them. You scared me, Nezuko. Don't do that, 𝗃𝗍 said as he trembled. Sorry 𝗃𝗍, I just couldn't help it, Nezuko laughed. Genya watches 𝗃𝗍 complain and Nezuko making fun of him. Genya just watched with a smile on his face. This reminded him of his siblings. Soon he began to space out and left the two to talk to each. Welcome all to the Demon Slayer exam. If you all survive 7 days in here and find the exit, you are official Demon Slayer. I'll give 5 minutes to think and plan before it begins. Good luck and may the gods bless you all, Nezuko's sister said, while the others stood and looked over the groups. Genya was out of daydreaming and started to plan something quick. Hey guys, why not we three team up, Genya said, gaining their attention. Nezuko was thinking about it and 𝗃𝗍 was already agreeing with Genya. The two watch over as Nezuko was thinking. Why not, 3 is better than 1, Nezuko said as smile at them. I knew you would agree, Nezuko. 𝗃𝗍 said as he clinged to Nezuko 𝗗𝗄𝗧𝗄𝗧 and Genya had to pull him off. The exam is officially starting and good luck, Nezuko's sisters said in union. Soon everybody was heading to the entrance and soon as they were walking into a forest. People were doing this in solos, duos, trios and squads, soon ever disappeared into the forest. Leaving the trio to enter the forest. Nezuko started first into forest with Genya dragging a crying 𝗃𝗍. The forest was huge and it was hot, tree branches and vines were blocking paths. Snakes and wild animals were also danger besides the demons. Soon Nezuko was using her sword to chop down vines, branches and bushes. The sun was bright as the trio came to cherry blossom tree. Taking cover from the sun, the trio rest. They didn't have any plan to find the exit or for their first night in here. We should probably find food during sunlight cause I'll highly doubt demons would let us, 𝗃𝗍 said, looking like he ran a marathon. Yeah but it's hot, like I'm gonna roast to death, Genya said looking at sun. Yeah but night is gonna be really cold if it's this hot in the day. This will force us to camp every night. Nezuko said playing with her sword. 𝗃𝗍 and Genya didn't expect such a serious statement, but they agreed to themselves all precaution should be necessary. I guess you're right, Nezuko, but where will we camp? We definitely can't camp in open with a horde of demons lurking about and about the fire. Genya said looking around to see if any fruit trees are around. Maybe we could create a fire small enough that it doesn't create any smoke and it will be hard to see, 𝗃𝗍 said. Genya and Nezuko looked at 𝗃𝗍 like he solved the mystery of Gulf Falls. That actually a clever idea, 𝗃𝗍, Nezuko said praising 𝗃𝗍. I'm proud of you, 𝗃𝗍, Genya said smiling at 𝗃𝗍. 𝗃𝗍 only blush and hide his face with his 𝗗𝗄𝗧𝗄𝗧 as Nezuko and Genya laugh. Nezuko got up and brushed herself before looking over the place. Trees were everywhere and they block the sun, but make the place ungodly hot during the daytime. First guys, we need a secure place for camp against demons and unfair people who might try and take advantage on us. Nezuko said to her teammates. She's right, sadly people are becoming like or worse like demons. Genya said. Why are people so evil? Zenitsu said as he began to shake and cry. Don't worry Zenitsu, we will protect each other with our lives, Nezuko said, while Genya think it over. Let's go guys, Nezuko said as she walked on deeper into the forest. Genya quickly followed while Zenitsu scrambled from his spot and went after them. The trio went deeper into the forest, hoping for a fruit tree to appear. It was afternoon and no luck, it only got hotter the longer they walked. They were hungry and their feet began to hurt. They were miserable until they ran into something unexpected. The trio were surprised that there standing in their ways was a bunch of fruit trees standing together creating a dark shadow. What was more surprising that there was a house in the middle of them. A house in the middle of a forest which was crawling with demons every night. Nezuko being curious slowly approached the house as the Genya and Zenitsu shake their heads and hands. They thought Nezuko was crazy to check out a random house in the middle of a death zone. Nezuko slowly approached the house, careful of twigs or leaves that could give her away. Slowly pushing away the branches and stepping over the roots. It was almost cold under the shade of trees which made Nezuko wonder. No breeze was blowing and it's far hotter than where she was. She and her friends have walked under trees and it feels like they're walking in fire. Nezuko once again began to move towards the house before knocking on the door. Zenitsu and Genya were beyond blown, anybody or anything can be living in that house. They could be a killer, rapist, a demon or some creep, only the gods know. Yet here is Nezuko knocking on the door like a perfect child. Zenitsu and Genya began to pray to gods to spare Nezuko. She was far too nice and pretty to die a death like this, Genya prayed. She was his first friend who didn't made fun of him and she was girl, she couldn't die a death like this, Zenitsu prayed. The door opened to see a large figure which loomed over Nezuko. Taking the height and build of the figure, Nezuko came to a conclusion that the figure was a male. How may I help you, the man asked. We were trying to find fruit trees, but we couldn't until we stumbled across here. Nezuko answered. We? He asked. Yes, me and my friends, Nezuko said smiling. Genya and Zenitsu were screaming mentally at this point. Nezuko was far too nice and navy like her brother. They just didn't know how the world worked in other ways. Since Nezuko exposed them, they came from behind the trees and walked over. Soon the trio stood in front of man, each expression different from one another. The man was confused on how they were here. Living in a place crawling with demons make people move away and stay away. Yet three kids were at his door and seemed to be tired from walking around in the sun. They were also looking for food, which meant by now they must be hungry and also thirsty. Come in and I'll get you something to eat and drink, the man said as he opened the door wider and left into his house. Nezuko being Nezuko walked straight in without any hesitation while Genya and Zenitsu watch her. How could Nezuko be so carefree and walk into a stranger house? Genya and Zenitsu just hope whoever the stranger is was just nice and decided to let them go and live. Soon Genya entered and dragging a shaking Zenitsu, closing the door behind. Genya went to look for Nezuko. Tanjiro was helping his sister get ready for the celebration. Nezuko was also decorating her box. Tanjiro heard someone knocking on the door and went to see who is it. Tanjiro. Oh Nordo, what brings you here? Nordo. So how it's going, Tanjiro? I haven't have time lately cause I have been taking care of 𝗗𝗵𝗿𝗵. So you're coming to the celebration? Tanjiro. Yes, and it's okay Naruto, where are the others? Nordo. Luffy said he was going to get the food, but knowing him, he probably is eating it already, Tanjiro. Deku. Nordo. He went with Shoyo to get the decorations, Tanjiro. Itadori. Nordo. He's trying to get Sukuna to behave himself before he comes with Gojo, Tanjiro. So who are you bringing, Nordo? Nordo. I'm bringing Sasuke and more. Tanjiro. I'm bringing Nezuko, the gang and some others including the demons. Nordo. Really bring the whole show with you, Tanjiro. I think Itadori is doing the same. Tanjiro. Don't act like you ain't trying, your show has way too many characters to bring here, Nordo. Yeah, I know, but I can try. So when's the celebration? Tanjiro. I heard it starts around 6 PM when the sun sets. I think some people from Black Butler will be coming with Black Clover folks around 4 or 5. Nordo. What about free? Banana fish. Tanjiro. They are already at Goku's place getting the place ready and waiting for us to arrive, Nordo. Well darn, almost everyone is busy except us. Tanjiro. No, I was helping Nezuko find a nice dress to wear for tonight. She was excited to meet other demons from other shows. Nordo. Yeah, Itadori is excited to meet me cause we are similar. I'm kinda afraid that Kurama and Sukuna won't get along with each other. Tanjiro. Same to say for Nezuko and Inosuke. I thought that Shoyo was in charge of sports. Nordo. Remember Yuri and his friends are teaming with I can't remember his name, but he plays basketball super well for someone around Levi's height. Levi. What did you say you fox-looking brat? Errand. Captain. He didn't mean it. Spear him. Levi. Let me brat. I need to teach him a lesson Errand. No Levi, we are here to enjoy ourselves not cause fighting between each other. Levi. Whatever brat, I'm going to go, I'll meet you at Goku's place. Levi walked away. Nordo. Tanjiro. Errand. Sorry for Levi, he doesn't like his height, but mentioning it is like a death wish. So be careful Nordo. Noted. Tanjiro. Same, what brings you here anyway? Irinista needs help with Zero and the dragon shifters, they got stuck in a huge bush and need help Nordo. Don't worry Nordo is on his way, see you guys at the celebration Errand. Don't forget to bring your family and friends Nordo has left. Errand. I also came cause say last to see you and Nezuko Tanjiro. We were about to leave anyway. I think the others have already rest Errand good anyways I have to go over to Bleach and some other enemies, you want to come? Tanjiro. Sure let me get Nezuko and we can go. Tanjiro quickly went inside to see Nezuko shrinking and climbing into the beautiful decorated box. Tanjiro also wore something special for today with his famous green and black checkered heroi. Picking up the box, he quickly left, but not before making sure everything was closed and locked properly. Tanjiro. Let's go Errand, the celebration is going to begin soon and we don't want to miss it Errand. Of course not. Soon Tanjiro and Errand were off to look for other enemies to join the celebration. Nezuko was sitting around a small wooden table, her legs cross each other, but she didn't take her sword off. Nezuko was waiting patiently as she tapped her nails against the table. Genya noticed that Nezuko nails were painted like Tanjiro heroi, which he find cute but never gonna admit it. Genya turned to see Zenitsu nails weren't painted just like his. He wondered if Tanjiro nails were also painted. Thinking about it, Nezuko hair had piece of cloth tied to her hair and below it, a pink string tied in a bow. She practically was wearing anything that symbolized her family. Genya smiled at this, he wished he could this or a sibling would. Zenitsu and Nezuko stared at a smiling Genya with concern. Genya soon noticed the concerned looks and sat down beside Nezuko before smiling at them. Nezuko and Zenitsu were worried about Genya, but they decided to leave him alone as Zenitsu joined them around the table. At the Ubuyashiki house. It was afternoon and Tanjiro was up, playing with his mother hair as his sisters were taking a nap. Soon Ubuyashiki came and saw his wife busy knitting a dress while Tanjiro played with her hair. Tanjiro. Leave your mother hair alone and come help me Ubuyashiki said. Tanjiro looked up and nodded and petted his mother head before running over to Ubuyashiki. His wife smiled before going back to her knitting. Ubuyashiki led Tanjiro to the meeting room where Shinobu was waiting for them. Tanjiro quickly left Ubuyashiki's side and ran over to Shinobu. Shinobu was surprised that a demon would be happy to see her. Carefully pulling her fingers in Tanjiro's long hair, she wondered how he would look in high ponytail with a butterfly clip. Shinobu, you said that you want to test something out with Tanjiro because he is very different from other demons. Ubuyashiki said. Yes Ubuyashiki-sama, he looks like a human. He doesn't even closely resembles a demon except for his nails. His eyes look completely normal until he goes into fighting mode. The bamboo tube covers his fangs and sharp teeth. Shinobu said while examining Tanjiro. He is passive and childish when he isn't sleeping, matter aggravated. He doesn't eat humans and sleeps a lot, he's active night or day and has super smell. I've heard he also unlock his demon art without eating humans. Shinobu said messing with Tanjiro's long hair as he fiddled with her heroi. Shinobu was amazed and curious of Tanjiro and his condition, but she can only compare Tanjiro to how similar he is to a human and not a demon. She wanted Ubuyashiki permission to examination of Tanjiro and his behavior. Ubuyashiki thought of Shinobu offer, he only knew little of Tanjiro condition and wanted to do more for him. As long as Tanjiro is fine with it and isn't forced against his will, then you have my permission. How long do you want to keep him at the butterfly estate? The day before Nezuko due arrival from the exam, I will come for him in the morning and bring him back in the afternoon. We will start tomorrow if it's fine with you. Shinobu said holding a sleeping Tanjiro. It's fine Shinobu, just report to me and the rest of the pillars about your discovery. Ubuyashiki said looking directly at Shinobu. Of course Ubuyashiki-sama Shinobu said bowing before handed Tanjiro over before leaving. Shinobu hurried over to the butterfly estate to get things ready for Tanjiro tomorrow. The residents of the estate never say Shinobu so excited to do something. Back to the squad. The man had brought 3 cups of water and a huge bowl of fruits. Nezuko, Zenitsu and Genya were hungry, so they quickly took a fruit, but not without bowing and saying thank you. Zenitsu greedily watered his fruit and was on to another. Zenitsu. Didn't they raise you to be a respectful young man? Stop eating like it's the end of the world. Nezuko scolded as she ate. Genyu only chuckled as he ate. Soon Zenitsu began to ramble about life and death, how easily he could die. Nezuko answered back with insults and facts. Genyu grabbed another fruit as he watched his friends argue. Genyu also noticed that the man went to another room. Genyu only gave him a thought before going back to agreement and enjoying it. 15 minutes pass and they were still going at it and the bowl was empty. Genyu lost interest in the agreement and went to look for the man from earlier. He stopped the man sitting on the porch as the wind played with the tree's branches and leaves. "Tired of those two arguing?" the man asked. Genyu could now see the man more clearly and he definitely wasn't a demon. A sword was attached to a strap on his back, he wore a robe of purple and blue. His hair was a dark gray with almond-colored eyes. "Who are you? Why did you help us? Do you know where you are? And why are you here?" Genyu loaded him with answer. "My name is 𝗗𝗲𝗵𝗵 and I help you cause your friend was nice and polite. I know where am I and I live here," he answered quickly. "If it wasn't for her and her kindness you wouldn't help us," Genyu said looking at the man. "If it wasn't for her, you or your yellow hair friend would have a 45/100th chance," he said with a smile. Genyu was about to tackle him when a strong pair of hands came around him. "Nezuko, let me go," Genyu answered. "No, he was nice enough to help us, and this is how you treat him," Nezuko said, not letting go. Genyu thought it over before giving up and letting Nezuko win. "Sorry about him, but can I ask you a favor, Samuel?" Nezuko asked, turning to him. "What is it?" he answered. "Can we stay here until tomorrow?" Nezuko said, staring at him. "Why should I? Your friend treated me badly," he said, looking at Genyu, who only gave him glare. "I'll keep the two in check, and tomorrow we have to leave to continue our exams," Nezuko asked with sadness in her eyes. "Fine, but as long as you and your friends follow my rules, you're welcome to stay. Now go back inside, I'll get you and your friends more fruit and water," he said, chasing the two away. He really cursed himself for falling for the girl charms as he headed towards the fruit tree as he heard laughter from the house. The laughter was something he haven't heard in a long time. He smiled as they walk away.